Over the last few videos, then, we've learned a particular approach to understanding the impact of media technologies. And what we've encountered is the idea that media technologies affect society by becoming engaged in the process of the creation of social meanings that have profound political consequences. So the effects of media can be connected to their affordances, their specific qualities that lend themselves in particular ways to a process that's as old as time. So society has always depended on the creation of media. The political struggles that affect society quite often surround struggles over those meanings. And therefore, media technologies matter because they offer particular solutions to problems of meaning creation. And we've illustrated that by thinking about how social media have become involved in a long running process whereby we feel the need to attach some kind of meaning to death. And one of the things that we've seen is that death is surrounded by a series of symbolic practices, and that media have become involved in the creation of new symbolic practices, but also the reformation of existing practices as well. So that's a particular way of thinking about the impact of media technologies, to think about how new media technologies lend themselves to different ways of creating social meaning. But I just want to end up with more of a glass half full kind of point of view, because, of course, the example that we've talked about is pretty gloomy. It's literally a matter of life and death. There are reasons for that, as we saw in John Darren Peters' work. John Darren Peters would argue that that is the essence of communication, about contemplating the relationships between life and death in a spiritual way. But there are many other ways that we can apply the same ideas. So it's not all doom and gloom. Another way of thinking about the effects of social media is to connect it to another, I suppose, anthropological question that media scholars involve in, that really doesn't have anything to do with technology at all. So, as James Carey was also fond of reminding us, the idea of communication is connected to other concepts such as community, the idea that communication is the basis for formations of people who come together and achieve things as communities. And this reminds me also of the famous Chicago sociologist Howard Becker's phrase, or statement, that the fundamental sociological question that faces scholars is, how do people do things together? How is it that we, in a complex world where there are all kinds of different people, how is it that we coordinate our behavior by finding things in common, by sharing meanings? And we do that through communication. And of course, the affordances of social media, the scalability, apart from anything else, of social media, means that that creates fantastic opportunities for that. And I suppose one of the areas where we could talk about that is the formulation of the meme, the emergence of the meme as a profound and profoundly important new form of communication, which quite often has all kinds of influences. The meme has become incredibly politically powerful. People use memes to make fun of people in power. And in many parts of the world, making fun of people in power is actually really a serious business. It's actually an important part of the struggle for greater democratic rights in parts of the world that don't enjoy them. But what we have through memes is the idea that social media lend themselves also to public participation and public creativity on a grand scale, and that there's great pleasure to be found in this as well. This particular meme is of a British reality celebrity chef called Gordon Ramsay, and this is a famous the sausage meme, which was a series of memes which kind of rearranged Gordon Ramsay's face and had him saying various things about sausages. And this is him claiming to not want to eat a sausage because he's a vegan. And of course, he's a famous carnivore, so that's something that Gordon Ramsay would never ever say. I don't even really quite know why I find these sausage memes so amusing. But the interesting thing about them is there's kind of a mystery. You run across these memes and you think, why on earth would somebody do something like that? And if you know the site Know Your Meme, you know that there's always a really interesting story behind them. There always is a reason why people make these memes, why people share these memes. And largely people share these memes because they can put something of themselves into them. They can communicate something that they want to communicate by drawing on this public resource of images and ideas. And what this also indicates, as some other scholars who are more of the glass half full empty, of the glass full persuasion, that the affordances of social media have created the possibility for unprecedented levels of public participation in public life. And even though this seems to be, we've gone from the deep and dark depths of Great War mourning and social media mourning and mass shootings, and suddenly we're talking about sausage memes and humor, they're actually part of the same dynamic. And what we can see is if we look at the key concepts from the key readings this week, both humor and mourning can be related to the specific qualities of social media communication. And by this, I don't only mean the technical qualities of social media, but also the conventions that grow up around how we use social media properly and improperly, or artfully and artlessly. What are the norms that we introduce around social media? But it's part of the same process. Again, we are talking about social media as an avenue, as a gateway towards something else, which is the broader conversation about how media become related to processes of communication, community, togetherness, and conflict. So again, the real kind of trick, if we're talking about some kind of social media research project, is to think about how the unique qualities of social media take a set of existing problems, ambitions, relationships, whatever it is, that are already imminent in society, and lead them into particular directions. And in that sense, we can think about research on social media as being the latest incarnation of an enduring theme in media research, which is about the interrelationship and the interactions between rituals and media rituals. And in the workshops, we're going to be talking about how the idea of social media affordances relates to that.